Some clicks. Let me see. I will have to tell you that this is almost a literal truth, this poem. Very little made up. Opera in the Zoo. 1962, 40 minutes on nostalgic reminiscence of Cincinnati opera seasons that took place each summer in the Cincinnati Zoo. If enraptured by the soprano, seals sang along. It took one soprano quite a long time to die. Just after you thought she'd gone, there she was again in a desert outside New Orleans. The seals sang along. They were having a field day. The tenor bullfrog, a clodhopper, stumbled and dropped the knife in that final scene with Carmen, and the seals sang along. Poor Carmen, she had to lunge twice before the tenor caught on. She was so full of life, she could have strangled him. Now all the animals upsurged. Applause for the soprano. Applause for the seals. Behind me, the woman whom I had insulted in kindergarten flirted with the Russian ambassador's son. Since Stan is here, Mifune. 1977, 25 minutes, a memorial to the great Japanese film actor, known especially for his roles in Akira Kurosawa's film. He became Japan's post-war generation's anti-hero, uncontrollable on the set. Miserable from tuberculosis, he flung himself out onto the landing and beneath the laundry. Slugging his way across mud, he refused to die until he caught and killed that bandit who hid among women. Or wide-eyed with terror, he was a porcupine quivering from arrows. Or guiding a willful princess to safety, his nobility was resolute and constant. He knew how to die, but he also knew how to convince a whole town to kill for him. The emperor and he became symbiotic, betrayed by the collapse of the samurai class. Only once they didn't connect, and the medicine was slapped from his hand. Yeah, you know that one. One film per stanza. Okay. I assume there are people in creative writing courses here. So here's the gifted ones. 1959, 22 minutes, shows differing opinions about the education of gifted children, whose advanced mind distinguishes them from their age group. Two prominent educators discuss their views, and gifted children are observed in their regular school activities. Is poetry alive or dead? Or both? What matters is that meter doesn't change or garble nature's metaphysic growth. Song on the auction block turns culture strange. These losses are enormous on the stock exchange, where brokers bet on futures, rue the roulette spin whose snake eyes drop, and hawk what's left of pension plans to balance through. Ignored and ignorant, the troubadours seem threadbare hummingbirds unto themselves, enraptured when some metaphor restores feeling to sound where dichotomy kills. All that the poets have is wit to make, imaginary numbers calculate. And then, I'm sure all of you have experienced this. Getting a job is a job. 1957, 18 minutes. The right and wrong approaches of applying for a job includes information on self-analysis, preparation of data sheets, obtaining references, investigating job opportunities, completing application forms, the personal interview, and the follow-up. I have lost both my hands. I open an envelope and they fall out. I put them back on and grope for my teeth. Slowly I make myself up from scratch. I am looking for employment. Please hire me. I know how to follow instructions. How else do you think I made it here? My body has gotten out of hand. It is inflating like a weather balloon. Slowly I bounce across the gravel. I would take a job at manual labor if only I could get my feet on the ground. Well, now it is really too late. I am floating away. I am decomposing in air. I am becoming the snowdrift outside your door. Yes. Let's see. Oh, yes. There are, of course, full-length feature films in this collection, and I'm going to deal with two that are a pair. Since we're in the happy Halloween season, you'll all be really, I think, thrilled with this. Frankenstein. 1951, 70 minutes, the classic horror film directed by James Whale that set the standard for all Gothic grotesques, includes the deleted child murder scene. Where did I get my monster? If you'd crawled the trenches of the Somme, your comrades strewn, decaying in a no-man's zone, or hung on barbed wire, target practice for both sides, and made to twitch in rigor mortis smiles, you'd know what creature God would resurrect from graves. Or if you'd walked the London streets and seen through fog disfigured shapes of men without their legs, or men with faces sheared of skin, a socket burn where once there was an eye, you'd understand the nuts and bolts of my contempt for science. Mustard gas and Gatling guns, its finest achievement. My favorite joke was making Karloff mute, cutting the tongue from his Shakespearean stature, compelling him to lurch, crippled by shoes that turned his need for human love into a love that dared not speak its name. The war taught all of us grotesques to laugh at death and freed us from our social class, our inhibitions. Sprawled on my lawn chair in sunny Hollywood, I watched the boy begin to trim suburban hedges, sad that no one will produce my latest film, a high camp romp about an aging queen who's ostracized by all his former friends. With garden shears, he savages his eyes. Oh well, the joke's on me. Perhaps with one more drink, I'll take a final swim in my pool. Franz Waxman, 1967, 20 minutes, a memorial for the famous composer of such movies as The Bride of Frankenstein, 1935. Magnificent Obsession, 1935. Captains Courageous, 1937. Rebecca, 1940. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, 1941. And Sunset Boulevard, 1950, among many others. Seen here rehearsing his oratorio with the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra. So banal in its normalcy, so nondescript, nothing explains this crematorium today where not a speck of ash remains. Still I have come to Terezin as if these ovens house small bones, although no trace of children stains one drop of blood upon these stones. Instead, I found some children's verses and paintings made at Terezin, such scraps of song my choir rehearses, so music may remember sin. Some things should never be forgotten to salve a new millennium, where parents fight to make a buck and children murder children. No snaps there. Quarks and Nostrums, 1958, 19 minutes, illustrates the error of taking quack medicines through the case of a woman who, after using an herb cure-all for her attacks, is hospitalized because of a failure to get proper medical treatment. Work of the Food and Drug Administration and other agencies to protect the public. When you hold on to something too long, it turns to gold, then crumbles like bone without marrow. When you bear a grudge, it turns into a hump on your back. Any words that you forbid gain power in the silence, then suddenly explode. Just because you are a member of the family of man doesn't mean you are human. Words thrive better in the junkyard of what people no longer need. Still, be sly enough to stay who you are, despite everybody else's advice. Even today, the leaves are greening, all on their own.